everyone's reporting on this. Google Stadia, Google's game streaming service that allows people to play modern games without a powerful PC, if you somehow hadn't heard of it, is changing the direction of its business. You know, the thing that's most kind of unbelievable about this to me, Luke, is Google taking a service that they just introduced and dramatically altering course.
Yeah, or potentially just killing it off entirely.
Like
That
I'm
seems
getting
very
whiplash.
uncharacteristic of them.
I'm getting whiplash here, you know? So Google is canceling multiple projects, basically all of the games that it had slated for release beyond 2021. Game studios in Montreal and LA will close, impacting about 150 developers. The company will apparently try to find them new roles at Google, though. And they will now offer their Stadia tech to tech publishers, allowing Stadia to become the streaming tech for other companies. So essentially white labeling the service. There were a number of games that were being developed by third-party developers that got their funding pulled. So that's pretty sweet. And basically, okay, yeah, cool. So that's pretty much the gist of it. But let's talk about what this means. Input Mag said, I think the company looked at the portfolio of original IP in progress and realized it was doomed to fail its first big test as a console maker, creating a mascot. That is a very interesting take. I have no idea why Alex Clark, one of our writers, decided to put that particular take in here. So why don't we just come up with our own takes? Luke, give me your first impressions on this. What's the takeaway?
I think they needed to buy something. They're talking about how they needed a killer app, they needed a mascot or whatever. Yeah, I think they needed to buy something. Microsoft has done a lot of purchasing game studios and integrating those studios. I think that would have made a lot more sense.
Making them part of the Xbox brand.
Yeah, definitely. And like leading with a very big foot in that direction, taking in companies like Bethesda, and I don't remember all the names of them, but some pretty like giant, is it Arcane Studios? I can't remember all the names of it right off the top of my head, but like they've made very big acquisitions in that space. Another thing that I think could have been a very large issue, and I hate to throw sand in this guy's direction again, but the creative director for SG&E, which is what's being shut down, was Alex Hutchinson, who was the guy who was basically saying that like streamers need to pay game development studios, all while using a like stolen piece of art as his cover photo for Twitter. Like that was terrible. And if that's the creative director for your company, and what you really need to make this succeed is creative direction, I'm concerned that trust may have been misplaced. Those are my main two takeaways. They needed a thing. They needed a face for the platform, and the person who is potentially making the face for their platform made like one of the biggest negative splashes I've seen in the gaming space in a long time. So
here's one of my, and the gaming space has some big negative splashes. Here's my big problem with what they were doing. And you mentioned Microsoft and the way that they've been going on a game developer acquisition spree. When you're Google, you have literally more than $100 billion in the bank. Why don't you just go like, okay, here's just, this is totally off base and maybe totally ignorant, but like, how much is Sega's like total market cap? Okay. Like what is Sega worth? Market cap 3.8 billion. And I don't think you even would have to acquire a company for its market cap. I don't remember what sort of the rough calculation
and I bet you Sega has divisions.
Sure.
Because I know Sega has like physical stores in Japan and stuff, so I don't think Google cares about that. But
Sega Sammy. I actually have no idea what Sega Sammy is. Sega Sammy Holdings. Maybe that's it. Anyway, the point is, it doesn't matter. You have $100 billion. Anything is for sale for the right price. So whether it's, one of those Chinese developers right now that is absolutely knocking it out of the park. I forget what article I was reading the other night, but there's like a Chinese adventure / RPG game, like kind of a Breath of the Wild clone. It's the second that
Oh
I've heard
yeah,
about in the last like couple of months. That's apparently
Jonathan plays it.
oh no, it's a different one. It's a different one. This is a Chinese only
Oh,
one right now that like just
okay.
launched and it's like crushing it. Like there's gotta be a game, and I realize acquiring Chinese companies is complicated. I'm just saying there has got to be an acquisition opportunity right there where you just go in and you say, look, we need a flagship. Let's go. Obviously, you're not going to be able to buy a Mario or a Gordon Freeman or one of those very, very expensive IPs.
Yeah, but you even okay. So just to interject right here, you mentioned Sega, and that's actually kind of interesting because when you and I were playing Anno over the weekend, I mentioned a company that was developing a Civ competitor game. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what it was called. It was called Humankind. And it's actually kind of interesting for this particular conversation because Humankind is being developed by Sega. Or sorry, it's being developed by Amplitude Studios and it's being published by Sega. Sorry, wrong way around. But it was like alpha or beta tested or something on Stadia, I believe, exclusively. So they like sort of thought about working on it. But you need more than a 4X game. And a 4X game probably isn't going to be like the face of your studio.
Yeah, probably not.
So they like sort of dipped their toe in, but like most people didn't even know about it. And it really wasn't far enough.
To me, the bigger problem here is just that Google is so that's one way that they could have. So people are pointing out that buying Sega wouldn't be allowed because the Japanese government is extremely protective of Japanese companies. So, okay, fine. I'm just saying, I'm sure someone somewhere would have been willing to make a deal if they were to go try and find like a franchise to make their own. Okay, so failing that, they just had to not be such chicken. Google does this all the time. They go, okay, no, really, for real, we're committed this time. We're going to do it this time. And the pitch for Stadia, like really the pitch for cloud gaming in general to me, if you wanted to truly take off, is that it was supposed to deliver gaming experiences that were otherwise impossible. And Luke, you and I have talked about this on the WAN show a lot of times, but there are truly gaming experiences, like really massively multiplayer gaming experiences, or like with highly interactive environments, for example, that would simply not be possible with a client running on potentially unknown or sort of unequal hardware all over the world and then trying to synchronize through a server, where you'd be far better off with the game world itself running on the server locally and then having everybody remoting into it. And
it's just like visual and control clients.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like exactly what Stadia is. So having thin clients that are just interacting with this just enormous game world. Like, I mean, so Luke, one of the holy grails of gaming would be fully destructible environments, and there are ways that you can kind of get close. I mean, I'd say the closest thing would be something like a Minecraft to a game with a fully destructible environment that is really core to the gameplay. But that's a Lego game essentially. And to be clear, I know there's way more depth to Minecraft than digital Lego.
So many people just
yeah. Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. Yes, I know. What I mean to say though is that we're not, when you destroy something in Minecraft, you're doing it block by block. You're not talking about objects physically interacting with each other. Yeah, in realistic ways. That's not what we're talking about. But with Stadia, that's something that if you threw enough horsepower at it, maybe you could actually do. Like, that would be so cool.
And they have a lot of like, we had Battlefield Bad Company, which did like an amazing job at the time. But it's quite old now.
Rainbow Six Siege, same story, slightly newer.
There's a certain amount of stuff that's destructible, but it's often very limited.
And
it's
scripted.
Not fully destructible. Yes,
exactly.
It's very scripted. It's very limited. What you're talking about is like full-on destruction. You can blow the building down if you need to.
I'm talking about like a prison escape simulator okay, where literally you could have, you know, this mega prison of 1,000 prisoners, okay? And it's this gaming experience where everybody, you know, kind of like a WoW raid or whatever, okay? So everybody starts the game knowing that this is going to be a 5 or like a 6 hour round, right? And so it's like, okay, the prisoners have to manage to get like enough spoons or whatever, and and shanks, and like there's this. No, I'm serious though.
Oh my
Okay,
god, no, seriously, I would probably play this.
you're
This sounds
laughing, but
amazing.
I'm serious. Like, doesn't
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sound like an amazing gaming experience? And meanwhile, so the guards are outnumbered, you know, 30 to 1 or whatever it is, but they've got all these tools. You could have this voice chat and interaction, you know, kind of like Among Us. You could have rules with respect to voice chat.
Oh
So
my
you would
god.
have to actually sit down like at a comms terminal in order to move your guards around. You'd have a limited number of views, like an
You have like
experience like
proximity chat so the guards and the prisoners can like beak each other and stuff.
exactly, exactly. Apparently, there's a game called Teardown, which is fully destructible, so we can go have a quick look at that.
Okay, but that's built into the name, so that's probably like all it is. Um,
Okay.
that's
Uh,
my
looks
concern.
looks very Lego blocky as well. Okay, so I don't know enough about this game to comment on it. Teardown, satisfying destruction. Okay, so I'd have to
I
have a
think
look
I
at this.
saw this on. I think I saw the creator talking about this on Imager, but yeah, it's still very block based. It's really cool.
Very cool looking.
It looks really cool. The how the lighting interacts with things looks
Visual
pretty
style's
cool.
really nice.
Yeah, but you can still. It's very chunky, very blocky. You can still see that, which is. I mean, it's great. It looks sweet. The reviews all look very very positive. That's fantastic. I'm happy for the people that made it. But like you see this car get shot by the helicopter, and it's like it's cubes.
the
It's made out of
the
cubes.
point is the killer app for cloud gaming was supposed to be gaming experiences that we couldn't otherwise achieve. That was the sales pitch. And what Google needed to do is understand that it was going to take time and have some patience for a change, because they just can't do it. It's like they just can't do it. Like, okay, let's say, for example, that I had a Google like mindset and I wanted to do something like develop a commercial property. Okay. So the way that works is when and if you can acquire any land, which could take you years, you then have to create a proposal for what exactly you would do it, how exactly you would do it. You have to get that approved by the city, which could take 6 months to 2 years. You have to get a bunch of like due diligence done. You have to get an architect to design something. You have to get an engineer to actually make it buildable. You then have to get the city to approve that again. Then you break ground. Then you have to get approvals and inspections at every phase in this process, from actually deciding, you know what? I'd love to have like a building to operate my business out of, to walking through the front door and like plugging in your laptop and sitting down and working is a process that can take anywhere from 36 to 72 months, realistically. So Google's the kind of company that goes, you know what? We should have like a really nice headquarters. Let's get started. 2 years later, 3 years later, the work site is covered in bulldozers, and a Google executive kind of shows up in a nice car, gets out, and is like, hey, you know what? This really isn't working out the way that we'd like. Sorry about that. See you later. Like, that's the way they are. Or they like, they do something like even dumber, and they'll just be like, hey, you know what? Great job, guys. Keep it up. We're going to start a mostly identical job site next door, and we want you guys to compete with them. And we're going to see who goes the fastest, because that's how you get the best product, apparently. Like, it's just, their mindset is so frustrating. They had to know. Everybody knows. I know. And I'm an idiot when it comes to game development. Luke, am I an idiot when it comes to game development? Help me out here.
Probably, so am I. It's
There you
okay.
go. Okay. But do I know, and do you know, that developing a AAA game takes 5 years if you're lucky?
But yeah, a lot of. I mean, look at Starfield. Is it called Starfield? Bethesda's new game. Um, it was announced years ago. It was announced in E3 2018, and people aren't expecting it to be coming until like the late 2020s. If we look at Skull and Bones, I've been really excited about this game for a long time. Its initial release date has been pushed back a few times. It's currently saying March of 2021. This had a gameplay trailer in 2018. It had 23 minutes of gameplay shared with IGN in 2018. Games take forever.
And what Google was theoretically trying to do was something that hadn't been done before. So optimistically, that was going to take 10 years. So instead of like launching based on that promise, they had to take a slower and steadier approach, know that they were going to have to be reliant on current gaming experiences for a very long time, and freaking stick it out, because if they made the investment and if they pulled it off, it had the potential to be an absolute goldmine. As it is, they are getting their lunches absolutely eaten by NVIDIA.